although the practical guidance has been changing. Now we come to the third subject. What is the subject matter of Iman? And this is important as well as interesting. And I have to make a few preliminary points first. Number one, there are two types of human beings. There have always been two types of human beings. There are two types of human beings, and there will always be two types of human beings. Most of the people, most of the humans, they are followers. In whichever society they are born, they accept the norms of that society. They don't question them. Why do we believe in this? They accept whatever their parents believe. And they start, in the journey of their life. They don't question. How do you believe it? And why do you believe it? And why should I accept anything only because you believe in those things? I must know the truth for myself. So actually, most of the people, here again I'm using the same expression, 99.9 recurrent % of people in this world have always been, are today, and will ever be followers. They follow. They don't question. They don't criticize. They don't demand arguments. But there have always been and will always be, although in minority, a microscopic minority, some people who question, why should I believe this? How come? How do you believe these things? So these people, you may call them, the intellectuals, although they are a microscopic minority. Actually, they are the pacemakers. They strive to get the truth for themselves, to have the knowledge for themselves. They make research, then they argue, they make a comparative study. Then whatever they accept, it is usually followed by others. Let me give you two examples. Rather, three examples. And let me start from the East. Imagine, who was Siddhartha Gautama Buddha, a prince, and living in a palace, brought up in a palace. He was the would-be king of that kingdom. That was quite a big kingdom. But that was a person of that time. He started thinking, what we believe, is it correct? Especially, why is there suffering in this world? He saw a blind man who was born blind. What was his fault? Why he was born blind? And he saw, an infant dying, and the parents standing by the side of that infant. Can't do anything. They know our beloved child is going, but they can't do anything. All this suffering, can there be any salvation? Can man be saved from this suffering? So that was the starting point of his inquiry into the reality and truth. What are the basic truths of this universe? So that was the reason why he left his palace. At the prime of his youth, he was 30 years old, married, left wife sleeping, and an infant son was also sleeping by the side of the mother. All the things, which a person loves in this world. The comforts and luxuries of the palace, a young wife, and now an infant son also. Left everything, went out into the wilderness. This is the word of the Bible, a cry from the wilderness. It is used for Hazrat Yahya alayhi salatu wassalam. So he went into wilderness. And how many years? For about 40 years, he kept roaming about to this rishi and to this muni and to this learned person and to this person. Now I don't know exactly the conclusions which he reached, and we can't say, because there are different sects of the Buddhists, and all of them, ascribe different things to Buddha. And because he belongs to an era before Christ, so it's very difficult, and that his teachings are, preserved. So I only wanted to give an example. There have been people who want to know the things for themselves, to have a direct knowledge of the basic truths of this universe. And they can sacrifice everything for that. The comforts of a palace, the luxuries of a palace, the would-be, the future, that he would be the king or the ruler of that kingdom. But he gave up everything to have the knowledge of the reality. Now let me give to the West. It's a well-known fact, you must be knowing. What happened to Socrates? Socrates. He was a thinker, a philosopher. He didn't accept what the society believed. He thought himself, he pondered over those things himself. He argued with himself. Then he reached certain conclusions. And then he started preaching. This is what I believe. To me, it appears it is like that, not according to what you believe. So there was, a controversy in the society. And then the society reacted. He was, he had to appear in a court. And the verdict of the court was, we can allow you to believe in anything you like, but we can't allow you to preach. We can't give you the freedom to challenge our beliefs and our, ideas. You can keep your ideas to yourself. You have to keep your mouth shut if you want to live. And if you can't keep your mouth shut, then this is the cup of the poison. You have to take it here and now. And you know what was the decision? He said, I can't live without saying what I believe, without preaching to others the knowledge that has come to me. I can't live. Life is meaningless. So I prefer to take this cup of poison. He took it there and then died. Now let me come to the third example, and this is from the Middle East. Who was Salman Farsi? Radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He was born in Iran, and the people worshipped fire. And he was born in the house of a priest, just like Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. He was born to Azar. And Azar, he was a priest. He used to make idols. The same was the case here. A custodian of a place of worship. Hazrat Salman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was born to him. But then he said to himself, it is ridiculous. We burn this fire, we add fuel to it, we light this fire. If we don't add fuel to it, it can't continue burning. And then we stand, folded hands before this fire, and you ask the blessings from this fire. It's ridiculous. I'm not ready to accept it. What was the fate? He had to leave his home and heart, just as the father of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam said to him, Araghibun anta an alihati ya Ibrahim? La illam tantahi la arjumannaka wahjurni maliya. This is in Surah Maryam alayhi salam. Are you leaving my gods, the gods whom I worship? You don't want to worship them? No, I will stone you to death if you, don't change your attitude, or you have to leave this house. Go away from my sight. Wahjurni maliya. The same fate happened and occurred to Hazrat Salman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He left his home and heart, even his country, just as Ibrahim, migrated from Iraq to Syria. He had to migrate again from Iran to Syria. What a similarity between the life of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam and Hazrat Salman from Iran, Salman Farsi radiyallahu ta'ala. He also migrated to Syria. That was the seat of learning. He became Christian, and Christianity was the deen of Islam of that day. Because before the advent of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it was the era of the prophethood and messengerhood of Hazrat Masih alayhi salatu wasalam. So he became a Muslim, so to say. So he accepted Christianity. And he was under the training and teaching of so many rahibs, knowledgeable persons, Christians. But the last one with whom he was getting knowledge, when he was on his deathbed, Salman said to him, well, my thirst of knowledge has not been quenched up till now. Now you are also dying. Where do I go after you? And then that Rahib, he said, my knowledge tells me that the time of the appearance of the last prophet has come near. And he will appear towards the south, in the lands of the dates. So go there, try your luck. If you are sincere, maybe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes you to him and your thirst for guidance and knowledge is quenched. So after that Rahib died, Hazrat Salman, he started his journey with a caravan towards the Arabian Peninsula, the land of the dates. But that caravan was looted, attacked by robbers. Salman was taken a prisoner. And what did the prisoner mean at that time? A slave. He was sold, but his purchaser was a Jew of Medina. So he reached Medina anyhow. There he heard that someone at Mecca had made a claim. He has made a claim that he is a prophet. But now he is tied in the chains of slavery. He can't go. He can't move. He's a slave now. So he kept waiting. And I do say these words about Salman raziyallahu ta'ala anhu. In Urdu we say that Kuan aaya hai chalkar pyase ke paas. Pyasa was Salman. Kuan was Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The well came over to the thirsty. In the case of Salman, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam migrated to Medina. And thus, the desire of Hazrat Salman was fulfilled. I can't go into further details. They are very interesting incident. How he approached the Prophet ﷺ. The question that he asked, he had an identity told to him that this will be the identity of that Prophet. And he, he fulfilled and he satisfied himself that he is really the person to whom he had referred. So these are the three examples of those persons who don't accept things, only because people believe in them, only because their parents believed in them. They question something, they criticize them, and then they want to know the truth for themselves. And they are ready to sacrifice everything for that cause, everything which is, loved by people, but they can sacrifice all those things for the sake of gaining the truth, the knowledge of the truth. Now, let me make another point here. These people, such people, whatever truth comes to them, then they preach. And now the followers follow them. Mostly not in their lifetime, but after them, all the people in the world, how many people are Buddhists? At least they claim to follow Buddha. How many people, all these philosophies of the West, the Greek philosophy, the realism and the idealism, they are all branches of the philosophy that were initiated by Socrates. Because Aflatun, Plato, was a disciple of Socrates. Then Aristotle, Aristoteles, he was a disciple of Plato, Aflatun. And there are only two branches of philosophy, either realism, which starts with Aristotle, or idealism, which starts from Plato, Aflatun. So all the Greek philosophy, all the Greek philosophers later on followed Socrates. But what happened to Socrates himself in his lifetime, I have told you. Same is the case of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I have told you that after the 10 years hardest labor, not more than 150 persons were there with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the 10th year after the beginning of Wahy. But how many believe in him now? So actually these are the people, we may call them the pace setters, the pacemakers. They have set the channels on which then humanity is treading and going. So they are the people who set channels of thought, lines of thought, and then the people Generally, they follow those lines, and they follow in the footsteps of these people. Now, let me come to the questions. What are the basic questions to which these people, the thinkers, the sages, the philosophers, they have been addressing, they have been grappling with? What are those questions? Number one, what is this universe? Has it been here in existence from ever and will continue to exist forever, or it has a beginning and an end? If it has a beginning and an end, then there must be some creator. Who is that creator? How can we know that creator? What are the attributes of that creator? We must know for ourselves. Can we have any contact with that creator? Can we approach him? Then number two, who are we? Are we just like animals? Or is there any qualitative difference between us and the animals? We find so many things common between us and animals. The animals have to eat, feed themselves, to preserve themselves. Preservation of the self. We also need food. Animals required rest. We also require rest. Animals sleep. We also sleep. Animals have sexual desire for the preservation of their species. We also have a sexual desire. So many things are common between animals and us. But are we only quantitatively different from animals, or is there any basic and qualitative difference between us and the animals? Number one. Then what about our life? Is our life only this period of our existence here, from our birth till death? The 30, 40, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years. You can add to it, according to your knowledge, another 9 months that we passed in the wombs of our mothers. So is that the only existence of ours? This is life? Was there no existence before coming to this world? Before our birth? Or before our conception in the wombs of our mothers? And in the same way, will there be our existence after death also? Is there any form of existence beyond death? Or death is the end? Is that the end of our existence? Or is there any life after death? Or is there any existence to continue after death also? Then, what is evil? What is good? Are these ethical values, moral values, are they real or just apparent? As there is a saying in English language, nothing is good or bad, only thinking makes it so. Is it correct? Or the good is good and evil is evil? Are these permanent values or not? You must be knowing that according to the Marxist philosophy, there are no permanent ethical values. With the changing of the economic conditions of the society, the values change. There are no permanent ethical moral values. Is it so? Is it correct? Then if there are permanent ethical values, why should we observe those values? Supposing I know that to tell the truth is good, to tell a lie is bad. But why should I tell the truth when I see there is danger in telling the truth? Maybe I'm killed. Maybe I'm fined because I have told the truth. Why not to escape the dangers by telling a lie? What's the motivating force? What's the motive that will make me tell a truth? Just as you know, I mentioned about Socrates. By saying out the truth, he had to finish himself. So to say, he committed suicide. He could live if he accepted the judgment of the court. You can keep your thoughts to you You are free to believe whatever you like, but you can't preach them. He didn't accept it. So what is the force, motivating force, that will bind us to the ethical values, to the moral values? So these are the questions. What is knowledge? We know that we have certain sense organs, and we gather some information through these sense organs. We can see, we can hear. Then we know that we have some faculty over here, of inferring. We infer from our sense data. The data is fed, just, as the data is fed in a computer. We know we have a computer here. And you feed the data, and then data is processed by this computer. And we reach a conclusion. And now those conclusions are stored in the memory of this computer. This much we know. But is that all? Or there is any additional source of knowledge? Can we get knowledge through any other source? So all these questions you might be knowing and you might have appreciated. These are the basic questions of philosophy, of different disciplines of philosophy. Today, this philosophy has been divided into so many branches. Otherwise, sometime before, philosophy included metaphysics. It included ethics. It included psychology. It included epistemology. All these are the branches of philosophy. And the questions which are enumerated, they relate to different branches of philosophy. What is the nature of existence? This is metaphysics. What is the nature of human mind? What are the motives? This is psychology. What are the sources of knowledge? How do we get knowledge? This is epistemology. Whether there are permanent ethical values or not, or what are the motivating forces to be moral in your attitude, to have a moral attitude, and to act according to the ethical values. This is ethics. So these are the different branches, different disciplines of the same subject which we call philosophy. Now, another point. There has been answers to these questions, but the sources have been different. On the one side, we find philosophers, thinkers, sages. You can mention Confucius, Tao, Gautam Buddha, Mahavir. You can, say Socrates, Plato. All these people, they were philosophers. They thought about these problems. They reached certain conclusions. Then they arranged those ideas into a logical system, and that is called, this is the philosophy of Plato. This is the philosophy of Aristotle. This is the philosophy of Confucius. So these people, they say that we have thought upon these questions, and our mind, our intellect, our logic tells us that these are the answers to these questions. This we call philosophy. But no philosopher till this date has claimed that it is 100% true what I am saying. No philosopher up till this date. Let me mention here Allama Iqbal, the biggest poet philosopher of Islam the 20th century has produced. And you must have heard the name of his book, Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam. No, in the preface to that book he says, I don't claim that whatever I have said in this book is 100% correct. We should maintain an attitude of learning and, and thinking and adding to our knowledge. And maybe that as time passes, better ideas, more sound ideas are given by other people. This is the humility that he shows. And this is the case with every philosopher. No philosopher has up till this date claimed that whatever I have said or I am saying is 100% true. But the other source of answers to these questions has been that certain people claimed that we have a peculiar, exclusive source of knowledge which has come to us. It is not with you. The humanity at large has not been blessed with that source of knowledge. It is wahi. from the creator of this universe. And we know for sure that these are the answers to these questions, and they are 100% correct. This is the claim of those persons whom we call prophets. A very long chain of prophets. Prophets of the Old Testament, and those before, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. It's a very big chain. And all these prophets gave answers to these questions. I shall, discuss in detail what were the answers. And actually the collective name of those answers is Iman. But here I want to make the point that these prophets claimed that we have known these answers to all these questions through a special source of knowledge which has not been given to all the human beings. And we claim that this is 100% true. There can be no doubt about it. That is why we find that the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah starts with a claim, very big claim, very loud claim. Alif Lam Mim, Zalikal Kitabu La Raiba Fi. There's no doubt about it. This is the truth. This is 100% truth. There's nothing false in it, no doubt about it. And I'll give you in the next session, inshallah, what Hazrat Ibrahim said to his father. That is the most beautiful expression of the claim the prophets made.